Welcome back to the Milwaukee Show, and we are talking about the Arizona Coyotes. That was a terrible howl. But anyways, yes, the Coyotes, a team that I am very interested in, and a team that I've grown up and I'm thankful for, and blah, 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 whatever else. But that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about them today and what they need to do this offseason. And I got one word, not one word, one sentence. And it is now the time to strike. If there ever was a time to be excited as a Coyotes fan, and I know with things, the politics of it all might seem not as exciting, but regardless of all of the outside of hockey things, it is an exciting time to be a Coyotes fan because there are some things to be really excited for. First off, Clayton Keller finally becoming a true beast, which isn't his fault. It's because the Coyotes have, for his entire career in the NHL, has been a horrible team. And Keller now, finally, without any help, has turned into the true beast he is with 86 points. This guy on the ice, he looks like he could be the next Patrick Kane. Just the way he moves, he's exciting, he's fast, he's just so great all around the ice, right? And other than that, the emergences of young guys like a Rookie of the Year contender, but not going to be, but contender, Matthias McShelly, who's an incredible player, J.J. Moser on defense, who's an amazing player on defense, as well as Barrett Hayton with a 40-point season under his belt now. So these guys are emerging, and not all that. Those are just the guys on the NHL roster. Look at all the young guys that are very close to making it into the NHL, if not will be in it or almost ready to be in it. Number one, I think, going to make the squad no matter what, Dylan Guenther. Guy drafted, third overall a couple years ago. Absolute hit, looked great when he was in the lineup. He scored, I think, a couple goals. This guy looks like a true stud on the ice. He's not like a superstar, but I definitely seeing him being towards like a high goal scorer, just one of those just solid players, right? Dylan Guenther, gonna be amazing player. Connor Geekie, one of the top picks last year. Once again, I think he's 6'4", big, tall power forward. I think is going to be useful to the helps of Connor. Guys like Clayton Keller, guys like Guenther, who's also got some size but not as big as Connor Geekie. I think Geek will be a huge part of the squad. Guys like Soderstrom on defense, who hasn't really emerged, and I don't know, at this point, maybe kind of floundering, maybe not really turning into a true defenseman, but really, it's hard to develop as a defenseman when your team's on an onslaught every single second of the night. So, kind of hard to tell with Soderstrom, but I think he still's got potential. And guys like Josh Doan, now on the Roadrunners, who looked really good at ASU, maybe being on Arizona and playing at the arena that he's used to playing at. Maybe he can, I don't think he'll make the squad this year, but next year he'll be on it. And guys like Nathan Smith. The list goes on and on with some of these young guys like Jan Jenik as well. A lot of young guys like Liam Kirk, who I'm sure you've never even heard of. In my opinion, probably the best British player in the world right now in Liam Kirk. Maybe he's been injured a lot. Maybe he can finally crack the squad and become some sort of British superstar. Who knows? There's a lot of young guys to be excited for the Coyotes. And the best part about them all is they have small contracts. That is right. So give them help. You can put all these guys on the ice. With Clayton Keller, he's getting paid, right? But guys like Nick Schmaltz, Clayton Keller, really the only solid contracts on the team. Everyone else with all these young guys and Moser and Michelli, who's going to be getting his payday, unfortunately for the Coyotes, but still, not a lot of big contracts on the books, especially since you look and they have got $31.9 million. Let's round it up to $32 million to spend on the rest of their team. Now, they do have a lot of spots to fill. 11 out of 23 spots filled. So they still need 12 players to fill in the rest of the lineup. But you know what? I think that's more of a blessing. I look to some teams that have a lot of missing people, and I'm like, that's kind of scary. But for the Coyotes, this allows them to really retool and fill in a lot of the holes of the ship instead of just slapping on some but just slapping in a rock in one place. Let's say with the Colorado Avalanche, who've got a lot of spaces to fill and not a lot of money. They're trying to put a rock there that's gonna let some water sink in. For the Coyotes, they got a lot of cap space that they can play around with and put some real legitimate pieces of steel to fit that crack and keep it sealed, right? Just saying. They got a lot of money and a lot of potential to sign some of these guys and a lot of young guys my point up here that who knows, let's say just somehow hypothetically say like Gunther and Geeky Soderstrom will be on the lineup. Let's say all three of those guys, including some guy on the Roadrunners, also make it. That's 4 guys. 4 guys, 15, only 8 left to spend $31 million on. That's a lot of money to spend on 8 guys. Now, going forward, this is my struggle, though, for the Coyotes, and the biggest thing is that it is kind of hard to tell who the Coyotes can attract at this point, which is the biggest disappointment. When I'm talking about the Anaheim Ducks, when I'm talking about the Columbus Blue Jackets, I can see why a player could sign there, especially in Anaheim. My whole thing for Anaheim is I think Patrick Kane should go there. And that's just because Patrick Kane, beautiful Anaheim, California. I've been there recently. It's absolutely gorgeous there. Disneyland's there. Sign a 3-year contract to Patrick Kane. He can go live the final few years of his career there with his family. They can take him to Disneyland, that Patrick Kane retire in beautiful, sunny Anaheim, California. The place is gorgeous. And for Coyotes, yeah, sure, Arizona is a pretty nice place, I guess, if you're not from here. And a lot of the guys love living here, and they're beautiful, especially up in the valley where the guys live, where the pro athletes live are amazing, beautiful places, and amazing, amazing weather, especially for the hockey season. And for all of that, yes. But right now with the Coyotes and the politics of it all, of all the nonsense that goes on with the arena, not an arena, going to a college arena, is kind of scary for me to think about who they can attract. Because offensively, I really think they deserve to reward Clayton Keller and give him a true line mate. But at the same time, it's hard to convince. Okay, let's say defensively. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit here. Defensively, I think, is their biggest weakness, right? I think Huso, Valimaki, and Moser are amazing, but they are not really, good enough to really hold a team together at this point. They really need some guys. So I think of guys like Dmitry Orlov, a guy that the Coyotes definitely can give their money to, maybe even outbid everybody else. But I think to myself, Dmitry Orlov, is he really going to go from playing his entire career in Washington, D.C., the most powerful city probably in the entire world, okay? Go from Washington, D.C. to go playing for and having a huge run with the Boston Bruins, giving himself a huge name as Dmitry Orlov, and then going and losing in the first round of the playoffs. Is he going to go from Washington to having an amazing stint with Boston to sign with the Coyotes to play at the ASU Arena in Tempe? It might be beautiful, but, is that what he's going to go from playing almost 20,000 fans to the 5,000 in Arizona? I just don't know if he's going to allow that opportunity of his career to get that big final career payday to be sent to Arizona. And that's one of those things that really scare me as a Coyotes fan, that I don't know who they can attract. Now, some guys like Columbus and Johnny Hockey, where the bit was like, Johnny Hockey, he's a true player. He could be really the exact spice that a team needs to win the playoffs. Maybe he goes to New Jersey, maybe he goes to Philadelphia, and then he goes to Columbus. And it's like, why'd he go to Columbus? I don't know. Maybe the money. Maybe he sees a big... I think he was a smart move, and I think they're going to do great now. But last season, it's like, that's kind of bizarre. It's like a nothing... I mean, Columbus is a big city, but it's not New York. It's not New Jersey. It's not Philadelphia. It's like, why'd he sign there? So for me, when it comes to the Coyotes, I really think, could they go out there and be the team that a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko goes to? Going from being from Russia to being in St. Louis, which is a pretty cold place during the winters, to now playing a little bit with the New York Rangers in the Big Apple. Maybe does he go over to Arizona and he's like, I'm gonna sign my big payday because he's gonna get his money's worth, and maybe he doesn't care where he plays. Maybe he's like, I've won a Stanley Cup, I've played in the big cities. St. Louis is a big city. Maybe I'm okay just living in Phoenix and being in an amazing hot area and not living in all these cold regions I've always lived my whole life, and just play some normal hockey and have some fun out there. Maybe that's what a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko could get, because I really think if they could get him on this team, Tarasenko and Keller on the same line, Keller feeding him, Tarasenko getting him his assist out there, Tarasenko make an amazing move to get that pass over for Keller's one-timer. I also like to think about guys like Mark Scheifele as well. Mark Scheifele, especially on the market, he wouldn't be on the trade market. He wouldn't have a say. You know what I mean? He wouldn't be able to say like, "Nuh-uh." I don't think he has a no movement clause. And for a guy like Scheifele, he won't be able to be like, "I'm not signing there." But he goes over to Phoenix and give Keller a true centerman to play with, who's had big seasons, and be able to play with those guys, right? But depth especially to help these young guys. Because Dylan Guenther, I would see them putting him on the top line, play with Guenther, Scheifele, and Keller, or Karasenk, or Guenther on the second line with Schmaltz. I see them doing that with Guenther, someone like that, Connor Geekie. And for the rest of the lineup to help out these younger guys on the up and growing and becoming stars, I think is the depth that really could help them out the most. I look to guys like Tomas Tatar and having him be a real veteran who's not going to care that much about beat. I don't know. It all depends on each player. Does Tomas Tatar really care about winning? I don't think he's won a Stanley Cup. I don't think he has. So maybe he would go to a contender to try to win that Stanley Cup. Maybe he signs a one-year deal to get traded away later in the season. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I look to guys like Teddy Bluger, who I think is a good building block to put around as well. Matthew Phillips and Teddy Bluger, if I was the Coyotes GM, are two guys I would absolutely go for. If you've made it this far, let me tell you something about Matthew Phillips. I saw the guy in person. He's an AHL stud, 77 points in 67 games in the regular season for the Wranglers, and he's got 22 points in, I think, 22 games in the playoffs. That might be absolutely wrong, but I gotta be honest. I kind of blurry on his playoff numbers, but in the regular season, he's more than point per game. Absolute stud. I saw him in person, saw him score against the Roadrunners. He's everywhere all the time. He's very fast. I'd like to see the Coyotes go, hey, we're going to give you an opportunity, and he could be another like Michael Bunting, Connor Garland type, where you give him a run on the Coyotes in that small arena and be like, I'm Matthew Phillips, I'm one of the real deal players all of you missed out on, and he goes out there and has a 30-goal season. Just saying, he's one of those guys, regardless of any team that picks him up, if he stays with the Calgary Flames and he ends up, they give him an opportunity, look out for him as well there, because I think Matthew Phillips could be one of those guys, as well as Teddy Bluger. Teddy Bluger is a guy that went from on Pittsburgh, looked like he's always one of those impact players that are silent, you know, and being on the Vegas Golden Knights, I know he wasn't a regular player in the lineup in their Stanley Cup run, but I wish he was. I think he could have really used the help the team out a lot, and I think he probably was overshadowed, and they think they probably would have rather have a guy like William Carrier out there. But I think a team like the Coyotes is a perfect place for to give Bluger an opportunity to be maybe that second line or top third line centerman and be an impact player. I'm telling you, Bluger, wherever he signs, look out for him. I think he's going to be one of those silent but deadly guys in a lineup where he scores some big goals. He's not going to score 50 goals, but he'll score 20 goals, and each 20 of those will be game winners. I'm just saying, he's one of those type of players. But offensively, depth-wise, I also think Ross Colton. I think going out there, I don't think Tampa Bay is going to be able to re-sign him. Give Colton a place to grow and be the number one guy. Maybe not the number one guy, but be one of the top guys. Be able to give him, because he's not getting those top line minutes on Tampa Bay. He just isn't, and I think a team like the Coyotes give him a platform to be the guy. Let him, throw him a bone and be like, hey, if you go catch that, you'll be the number one guy, and he can go thrive with it. If he doesn't, oh well. I think he's only going to get paid like, what, $3-4 million? Things don't work out. They got a lot of cap space to work with here, okay. Defense. Going on to defense now, this is their biggest weakness. And the Coyotes is going to be a tough solution because this free agent market is very tough this year. Very tight, and I've already talked about it. Guys like Dmitry Orlov, I just don't see being able to I don't see the Coyotes being able to convince him, have him sit down with his agent and be, hey, listen, Dmitry, we're going to pay you the most money. You're looking for 6.5, we'll give you 7.5, okay? But listen, we're not going to be a playoff team this year. We're not going to be a playoff team next year. We're going to kind of be maybe we're a wild card next year, but this season definitely not. Next year, maybe in the playoffs, we're looking hopeful to it, but next year especially we will be. And at that time, Orlov's going to be like, no, I'm not doing that. But guys like Matt Grishalik I look at, who are going to be on their way out of Boston, I think giving this Coyotes team a guy who can move the puck up and down the ice in Matt Grishalik would be huge. He wouldn't be able to have a say because he would be a trade, and they could trade for Grishalik, throw him on the ice, and give him the chance to be the number one centerman and play with like J.J. Moser on the ice for most of the time, 23 minutes a night, give him an opportunity to grow, and when he becomes a free agent, go out and be like, I'm worth big money, I got 50 points with the Coyotes this season, right? Or maybe he loves Arizona, maybe he stays. And I think it's worth going out for a guy like Grishalik. Maybe Klingberg does the thing he did with the Ducks this last season where a bad team will give him money and then he gets traded later on. Maybe Klingberg does a thing here where he does the same thing, because it'll be tough, because I think definitely defense is their worst aspect of the team, and bringing on a guy like Orlov would be my pick. I just don't see it happening. Klingberg has shown in the past that maybe he's willing to be like, whatever, I don't need to go to a good team right now. Trade me to a good team like Minnesota later in the season. I could see that happening. Goaltending, I think they're fine. Connor Ingram is a guy that they're going to re-sign. Vamelka, in my opinion, is a absolute stud. I think any contending team should trade for him. I'm surprised they haven't, because I think he would be a huge, huge goaltender. Maybe the Coyotes are just hanging on to him, saying, hey, he's our goalie of the future. We're going to grow as he grows, and he's going to be our backstop when we're a playoff team. And that's what I think. And this team, the way I look at it right now, with they're not going to be a playoff team this season. Definitely not. They're not going to be, I see the way things, as long as things go smart and the GMs are not the absolute biggest idiots in the world, I think if they're smart about everything, this team will miss the playoffs this year, but will end up in like 22nd, 20th, or something like that. Close, but too far. And then next season, next season, I see them being a wild card team. I think this team, as long as guys like Josh Stone are making the lineup, Geeky, Gunther, as well as the 6th and 12th picks that they're getting this season in such a deep draft, if they can end up getting a guy like Mishkov out there, this team is going to have the likes of Connor Geeky, Gunther, Soderstrom, Doan, Smith, McChelly, Moser, Barrett Hayton on the team, as well as if whoever they draft this year with Clayton Keller out there as well. And who knows, maybe some surprising guys like Liam Kirk or Jan Jenik become a true power in the NHL. You never know. And with the amount of money they have, what if they do sign a guy like Vladimir Tarasenko to 5 years and he's willing to be like, hey, I like Arizona and, I don't really care about winning another Stanley Cup. I just want my money. Maybe he's a guy like Johnny Hockey, and he's just willing to not care about what city it is, and he doesn't care about winning. He's just like, I'm getting paid, and it's beautiful here. Maybe that's what guy like Tarasenko's looking for. So for my opinion, at the end of the day, they really need to get at least 2 or 3 good defensemen. 2 or 3, I don't know who it is. Guys like Damon Severson are like off the market now. I think he could have been a good, useful, just solid, all-around defenseman, and it's hard to tell, like, who's, like, open and who's not, and at this point, my biggest openings are, like, Grishalik, maybe one of the Blues players, but I'd say definitely 2, if not 3, good defensemen. They don't have to be the best defenseman in the world, but just solid NHL-proven defensemen to help Soderstrom develop, and also with the likes of Moser and who's the other? Valimaki, who is great as well. And just have a solid few lines of guys on defense. Offensively, give Keller someone to really play off with. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Maybe a guy like Patrick Kane would sign here. Who the hell knows? I doubt it, but who knows with how guys like Johnny Hockey sign. And I think they go for a true number 1 guy, having some solid, like, smart pickups in Teddy Bluger, Matthew Phillips, Ross Colton to fill out the bottom lines, and bring up some guys from the Roadrunners who are young, and whoever they draft this season, at this draft, there's a lot of potential things that a good, smart GM could do, and I know I've gone on a long time, but I know a lot about this team. I think they have a lot of money that they can spend and give little amounts to and big amounts to other people, take some risks with some depth guys, and build up this team. I'd say sign of these depth guys to 3 years deals. Sign Phillips to 3 years. Sign Bluger to 3 years, where this year they missed the playoffs, but you still have them for next year. Next year, you're a potential wild wild card team, and that final year of that 3-year deal, you're truly in the playoffs, and maybe you make it past the first round. That's how I see it. By that time, in those 3 years' time, Connor Geeky, Dylan Gunther will be NHL proven players, and that's how I see things going. But that's all I gotta say. Thank you for watching this. If you've made it all the way to this insanely long video, then please pick up your free subscription. I'm begging you, please. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and the Coyotes might actually be good. Ta-ta for now. Ow, ow!